Oh, oh no! Annyeonghaseyo from Korea. Welcome to Next Matchup. Today we're cooking Kimchi Jjigae. Kimchi Jjigae uses extra fermented kimchi and it makes a stew. Jjigae means stew in Korean. Now today I'm actually going to show you a bit of a secret recipe. When you normally cook kimchi jjigae, you're going to fry the kimchi and then fry the pork, but today I'm actually going to boil down the pork to make almost like a pork yuksu, almost a pork broth or sort of like a stock. We're going to use that stock as the base for the kimchi jjigae to actually give it a much more delicious flavor, well, at least in my opinion. While it's very easy to make kimchi jjigae, if you want it to be perfect, you have to take note of a few ingredients. First is your kimchi. Use shin kimchi that's been fermented for a long time, as well as keeping the broth. You need a little bit of the broth or it's going to be a very bland stew. This tofu is firm tofu that is for jjigaes, for stews, so make sure you don't get the soft one, won't work out quite right. And for your pork, you want pork that's got bits of fat on it. Some sort of pork belly would be best, but this is actually like specific pork for jjigaes, sort of cut like that. The more sort of fat on it, the better. Pour enough water in that it sort of lightly covers it. It's going to boil down. You can always add more water if you need it later on, but about that much. See how it's just covering the pork? And then we're going to bring it to the boil, add your fish sauce, that's just a little bit of seasoning, and let it boil down for about 25 to 30 minutes. Really, the longer the better. You want all of that fat to render into the soup, and that's going to make sort of that yuksu, or the broth that I mentioned earlier. We're just going to slice up some green onions here, and the greener part, I'm just going to put that on the top as garnish. For the tofu, this firm tofu is perfect. Now it's actually optional, you don't need to add tofu. I almost always do it when I'm cooking jjigae, just because it adds a little bit more volume to the dish. You know, nice and filling for you. You'll always have more than enough if you add a bit of tofu in there. But if you don't like tofu, just skip it. Your kimchi should have fermented for a long time, full of flavor. How you cut it is up to you. Just make sure you don't cut it too small. No one likes tiny pieces of kimchi in their kimchi jjigae. You want at least bigger pieces. Go for bigger more than smaller, in other words. And always taste it. You gotta taste the kimchi. This is my favorite part. Oh, so good. Kimchi is so full of flavor, you could eat it by itself, so when you add it to this dish, you do want to get as much flavor from it into your jjigae, basically. And speaking of which, look, see how the water's down? We've got only a little bit of water, nice layer of fat as well in there. And now we can put the kimchi and mix it all up together. So the fat from it is all on the bottom, and that's going to mix in with our kimchi. A little bit of a fry, so for about 3 minutes, just sort of fry it all off on a medium heat. Turn the heat back up. Then add your water. I'm using 700 mils of water. You could probably add more. If you like more water in your broth or in your sort of soup or jjigae, add in more. Once that's boiling, throw in our pepper flakes, the garlic, the soy sauce, and then give it a good mix. You want to boil it for about 2 to 3 minutes at this point. Really get some of that water out of it and get the flavors in before you add in the sugar. Just a little bit of sugar, a little bit of sweetness. It'll also sort of like firm up your sauce, get a bit stickier. After 4 to 5 minutes, you're ready to add in your green onion and then your tofu. It's pretty much done here, though the longer you cook it, the more flavorful it will be, but the water will start to disappear and evaporate. So you sort of have to balance that. You don't want it to be too runny, but you also don't want it to be too thick, lacking the sauce that you want to mix in with your rice later on. So give it a taste, and if it's ready, then just turn it off and you'll be fine. Or keep it boiling a little bit longer, and you can always add a little more water if you need. But once it is ready, turn off the heat and add your sesame oil. It's a real game changer. It'll add a lot of extra savory flavors to your dish. For serving your kimchi jjigae, I recommend serving it over with a little bit of rice, just like this, or you just have the rice on the side. Usually in Korea, you'll have your jjigae in the middle, sharing with whoever you're eating with, and then your rice is on the side, where you'll add sort of spoonfuls of kimchi jjigae and the ingredients to the rice in particular. but this is a one-person one, or a two-person one, because me and my wife will have one each. Speaking of which, it's time to actually eat this and see how it tastes. Best part about cooking Korean food is of course the part we get to eat it. So, I'm gonna eat this, and I can't wait. First, kimchi. Ooh. Yeah, kimchi already tastes great, especially shin kimchi. It's been fermenting for a long time. So when you cook this, it should elevate it. The kimchi should be more delicious than it started as. And I love my kimchi as it is. So that's such a good flavor to it. And the tofu sucks in all that flavor, all those juices. So you get this nice subtle sort of kimchi flavor. You can skip the tofu if you want, but I just love this full dish, you know. If you want to eat a lot and have sort of a healthy meal, this is the way to go. And then our pork. It's soft, and it's been seasoned with the fish sauce that goes with the yuksu that we made. Awesome. Look, as usual, I'm gonna eat this. Thanks for watching the video. Hit that subscribe button if you're interested in Korean cooking, because I cook a new Korean dish every week. Sometimes I revisit some of my old dishes to show you different ways to do it, or even just an update on how I'm doing it. Maybe there's a few changes to the recipe. So even though this is one of the ones I've definitely cooked before, this is one of the first times to show you guys a different way to cook kimchi jjigae. Try it out, let me know how it goes in the comments below, and enjoy your week. 안녕히 thanks for watching.